Alright, so the first thing you want to do is put down your first sandbag. This will kind of determine where you actually want to have the gun aimed at. So the gun is always going to be about 2/3 to the right of the first sandbag you place. So ideally, we're going to have it looking straight down this way. So to start off, you want to dig this guy up a little. Once you get this first little section built, you want to hop on, grab another sandbag, and you're going to try and line it up so you get it right on top of this one, just like so. Now this can be a little finicky. It's generally, I find it's easier to dig up the bottom one first. Just because of the way the deployables are placed, I found that as you like stack them up, if you go to one side, you'll be able to dig up like the bottom or the top one easier, and then if you go to the other, it's the opposite, yada yada. But get this bottom sandbag all dug up, and then we're gonna do the same thing with this top sandbag, where we're gonna build it up to that first stage, and then we are going to place our pillbox. So you want to be careful. You don't want to place it right on top like we did with that bottom sandbag. What we're looking for is we're going to have a little off kilter, so that way that eye hole right there is eye level. So depending on how you place it, it's kind of how it'll end up. So like I said, the eye hole will end up about 2/3 of the way. So as we dig this up, you'll see, but again, generally easier to build bottom, work your way up. Alright, so now as you can see, we have a little eye hole that's perfectly eye level. Now, the closer you get, the lower you can aim. Closer you get, the lower you can aim. Obviously, shorter barreled weapons, you're not going to be shooting the sandbags so much. And just to show you, the person who taught me this originally said that it's good for bipods because they can deploy it perfectly. While it is true, I found in reality, doesn't really work out the way you want it to. I'm clicking right now. I don't know if you can hear, but you can't shoot unless you like aim up to the sky, which even this way it's not really working. So this is really only ideal for keeping the enemy suppressed like this. I will do some more testing in the future to see if there's a good way of having it work the other way. But as of now, this is only used for ADSing, not setting up a bipod. So just to show some adaptability that comes along with this, I want to point out that you want to always build to the situation that you're in. So we're on Belaya in the tunnels right now, which I think is a pretty cool way of showing you how you can turn this into a very strong fortified position. So if I just spin around real quick, I dug up a bunker. So you can see that the Haskell bunker, it looks pretty secure. There's not a whole lot of headroom. There is a gap over there, however, and if people want to, they can toss grenades, not so shittily, but they can toss grenades up on top of the bunker, and they can even get across the other side, obviously rounder shit. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can make this into something even better than this Haskell bunker. So now I'm going to show you how to turn this into a very well fortified position. Again, it all boils down to adaptability depending on your situation. Right now, for demonstration purposes, we're on Belaya in the tunnels, and like I said, I'm going to show you how to get the grenades, have it set up so the grenades can't come over the sandbags. So the first thing you want to do is grab another sandbag, and you're going to place it on this edge here, and don't worry, it's going to block off eyesight, but this has a purpose. So you want to get this sandbag built up. You're going to want to get it to that full stage, but obviously don't dig it up all the way. And this is where communication with your team can really come in handy if you have multiple people. Just telling them, hey, don't keep digging this, just trust. So at this point, you want to place a ladder over here and dig it up one section, so you have this little half ladder. And this allows you to place another sandbag using the height of this new sandbag you placed. And it allows you to place it kind of wherever you want. So you want to line it up just so that there's no gaps or anything. And you can get that sandbag placed right there. Alright, so now you can see this has no gaps. Technically, there's a gap right here. I think anybody would be very hard pressed even to get some kind of splash from a 40 mic up there. Especially with the way that the explosives work right now. It's essentially if you don't have line of sight, it can damage you. So, you know, I believe that this is the most fortified position you can have set up for this exact situation. And I'll just kind of show you how I would optimize this, you know, obviously given time and resources. Ideally, in this specific situation, I would only be doing a setup like this. If, you know, our team, it's generally pretty easy to hold this, if the first point is over here, and this is a pretty well fought position. So if you have a team that's willing to help you super fob this, I'll kind of show you how I would even take this further and just show you, like, in an ideal situation what I would have set up here. Alright, so just using the same techniques that I showed to build this half, I went ahead and built this half. You know, just stacking sandbags. I used the ladder as well to get it all the way up to the ceiling. You can see here, because it was a little short, there's about like a half-foot gap between this third sandbag here and the ceiling. I had to stack another one on top with another half sandbag. And they actually brought the sandbag all the way up to the ceiling, so they're 1,000% not getting through that. But just to kind of show what I did, I also threw in some razor wire in front of these sandbags here, so that way they can't just come up and drop C4 directly on this. Obviously, they can still put C4 there, and I would even, if you really wanted to make it as hard as possible, you know, you can build and build and build and build and build, and you can make this impossible to get through. But given what little resources and time you have in reality, what with not even just having the points being pushed towards you, but also any like scout squads or anything, and you have to jump off and defend your radio, stuff like that, you can only do so much realistically. And again, we're in the tunnels on Belaya right now. This is one entrance. I believe there's one, two huge ones, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe another one or two. And this entrance, if I did everything perfectly, would probably take me about 5 minutes, which honestly, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that really adds up. Especially if, you know, you can't depend on your team to hold that first point. I digress. So I threw up some razor wire here so that way they actually have to come up, and they'll have an extra barrier if they just were hoping to maybe dig this down. This just buys you and your team time, because they have to dig through that barbed wire before they can even start digging down this stuff. And then additionally on this side, I added a nice little peek hole here. You know, you might find that with these sandbags, if you're using a long barrel rifle, you know, shooting out this way is no big deal. But as you start to get lower, 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 you see like right about at this door frame here is where I start struggling and I start hitting the sandbag. So, just on this other half, again, this is situational awareness. I added in this little bottom sandbag that allows for perfect firing down here, which obviously this isn't ideal for hitting targets that are a little bit farther out. There is this nice little flight line here, but you know, you gotta work with what you can do. So, anyways, this is the little sandbag fortification thing that I learned from a random and thought I'd share with you. So, hope this helps.